The big guy, Jerry Weintraub, didn't want me for this. He wouldn't even consider me for a reading. Every time my name came up in the casting submittal process, he was adamant. He says, I don't want a comedian. I don't want a comic actor for this role. This is a heavyweight part. I want an actor.
What if I told you that the man who gave us Mr. Miyagi almost never got the chance to audition? What shocking truth did Pat Morita reveal about the producer who nearly destroyed his career? And how did a scruffy beard grown in Hawaii become the key to landing Hollywood's most beloved mentor role? The answers to these questions reveal a story far more dramatic than anything that happened in the dojo. According to the research materials provided, Pat Morita's path to becoming Mr. Miyagi was filled with rejection, unexpected twists, and a producer who was determined to keep him away from the role entirely. When the Karate Kid was being cast, Pat Morita wasn't even on the radar. The research shows that producer Jerry Weintraub had built what seemed like an insurmountable wall around the role of Mr. Miyagi. Morita had been known primarily as a comedian, remembered for lighthearted TV appearances and quick one-liners. To Weintraub, this resume made him the absolute last person who could convincingly portray a war-hardened, emotionally scarred mentor. The research reveals that when Morita's name first came up in casting sessions, Weintraub reportedly snapped that he didn't want a comic anywhere near this part. For weeks, every time Morita's name appeared on a casting list, Weintraub rejected it without hesitation. The producer wanted gravitas, someone who could make audiences believe in a man carrying both tragedy and wisdom in silence. But here's where destiny intervened. Director John Avildsen, who had already proven his eye for underdog stories with Rocky, wasn't interested in following the beaten path. He understood that the Karate Kid's success depended on finding a genuine bond between mentor and student. Against Weintraub's wishes, Avildsen insisted that every possible candidate should be read, whether the producer approved or not. The research materials reveal a crucial turning point that happened far from Hollywood's casting rooms. By the early 1980s, Morita's career was drifting into uncertain waters. He found himself in Hawaii, piecing together a living through whatever work came his way, emceeing political fundraisers, writing commercial copy, and performing in nightclubs. During this period, Morita made a decision that would unknowingly change his entire career trajectory. For the first time in his life, he let himself grow out his hair and beard. Not for a role, not for a show, simply because he felt like trying something different. According to the research, he later laughed about looking more like a hippie than an actor. That scruffy, weathered appearance would prove to be a stroke of fate. When he finally got his audition chance, this look helped create the impression of a man who had lived through real hardship, making him appear older, wiser, and more grounded than the polished comedian audiences remembered. But the most shocking part wasn't his appearance. It was how close he came to missing the opportunity entirely. Stay with me, because what happened next proves that sometimes fate hangs by the thinnest thread. The research shows that when Morita's agent contract came up for renewal, he almost let it expire. In a moment of resignation, he gave his agent a half-hearted reappointment and was ready to return to Hawaii for good. As he walked out of his agent's office that afternoon, convinced no jobs awaited him, destiny intervened with a shout from above. "Pat Morita!" The secretary ran out, calling that he had just walked out the door. The agent leaned out and waved him back urgently. "Pat, get your butt back in here. There's a script I think is perfect for you." That script was The Karate Kid. According to the research materials, when Morita finally got his audition, he walked into one of the strangest casting sessions of his career. Instead of the usual Hollywood setup with casting assistants and producers taking notes, he found John Avildsen alone, half man, half machine. The director sat there with a camera cradled on one side of his body and a bulky battery pack strapped to his torso. From the moment Morita stepped into the room, he was being filmed. Avildsen wanted to capture more than just a polished read. He wanted to see the raw presence of the man, to determine if Pat could truly become Miyagi when no one else believed he could. The research reveals that Avildsen didn't just have Morita read lines. He asked him to talk about his life, his career, his ups and downs. In that moment, Morita wasn't delivering a traditional audition. He was opening a window into who he really was. When he finished the scripted material and started to leave, Avildsen called out, "Pat, don't you want to take your script with you? You might need it." That single sentence was electrifying. It was the first hint that perhaps he had broken through the wall of doubt. Later, when producers were debating casting choices, Avildsen would play that tape. In one heated meeting, he simply clicked on the monitor while they argued. The room quieted as Morita's audition appeared on screen. Then Weintraub, the very man who had refused to consider him, exclaimed, "Hey, wait a minute. That looks like Miyagi." The research shows that for most actors, one solid audition is enough to secure a role. For Pat Morita, it took 5 grueling tests. Even after Avildsen's tape impressed skeptics, the producers demanded more proof that this dismissed comedian could embody Mr. Miyagi's soul. The first 2 tests were simple reenactments, proving he could recreate the intensity from his initial audition. The third test raised the stakes. Ralph Macchio flew in from New York to test their chemistry. The script called for more than a teacher-student relationship. It needed to feel like father and son, mentor and guide. The chemistry between them was undeniable, but the studio heads still weren't convinced. What they demanded next would either make or break Morita's chances forever. The fourth test added costumes. Would Morita look the part? According to the research, when he dressed in a simple G with his distinctive beard, the transformation was startling. The nightclub comic was gone, replaced by a man shaped by age, experience, and quiet pain. Even Ralph later admitted that when Pat became Miyagi, it was as if he transformed into the character completely. The fifth and final test was the ultimate stress test, a reading on a cold, empty soundstage with no sets, no props, just Morita, Macchio, and the camera. The research reveals that they didn't act, they inhabited their characters. When the camera stopped, the silence was deafening. After passing all 5 tests, one final obstacle remained: Jerry Weintraub himself. The research materials reveal that after the final screen test, where Morita and Macchio performed a quiet exchange that carried more weight than any action sequence, Weintraub picked up the phone. On the other end was Morita, waiting at home, still unsure if the role would slip away. Weintraub's voice, usually sharp and unyielding, carried a different weight. "Pat," he said, "I almost made the worst mistake of my life. I just want to be the first to congratulate you. You've got the part of Miyagi." The research shows that Morita felt both triumph and humility in that moment. He hadn't raised his voice or pointed out how close they came to excluding him. He simply accepted the role, knowing it meant more than just his career. Miyagi was destined to become a cultural icon. According to the research materials, securing the role was one victory, but giving Miyagi a voice the world would never forget was another challenge entirely. Morita had to find the balance between dignity and authenticity, avoiding both stereotype and excessive polish. In his final reflections, Pat Morita recognized that the Karate Kid had given him something no other project ever had: the chance to be remembered not as a comedian with a lucky break, but as an artist who poured his heart into a character that touched the world. Mr. Miyagi wasn't just a role he played, it was a gift that shaped him as much as he shaped it.